Welcome to another episode of Mutual Growth, a podcast by Penn Community Bank. I'm your host, Aaron Clark. After the show is over, be sure to check out the show notes and links to resources at penncommunitybank.com/podcast.
All right, Jill Roberts, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Aaron.
Excited to talk about Clarifi and the bank's partnership. A lot to cover, but as we always do, it behooves us to start with an introduction and tell us about you and your role with Clarifi.
Happy to. So my role at Clarifi, I guess if I just gave you my title, it's Director of Advocacy. And what that means is I go around and speak with different organizations and places advocating for the work that we do, and for our clients, if you will. And that looks like talking about how we help folks, how we empower them to preserve wealth. I've been doing this for about 7 years at Clarifi, which is a 56-year-old organization, largest in the Delaware Valley, that provides financial empowerment and resiliency services, as well as housing success, financial counseling, if you will. And we have been doing it. I think we're the best that we are. I think anybody. I would say that if someone said to me, what does Clarifi do? We have transitioned from being a simple, just straightforward housing counseling, credit repair organization to being a full services, financial, social services organization. Innovating our products and services to meet the needs of our clients. We really are focused on our theory of change and our intended impact around clients preserving wealth and those who have been probably the most underserved or under-resourced in that. So minorities, women, folks in Philadelphia County, but also in outlying counties like Delaware County, Bucks, Montgomery, a little bit in Chester. Did I say Delaware County? And also southern New Jersey and northern Delaware State, where we do services there as well.
So you touched on, 5+ decades of work, kind of shifting, adjusting to meet the needs of your clients and communities. Can we kind of pause there? Who are clients or stakeholders in Clarifi? Who are those folks that Clarifi is working on all these great programs and opportunities with?
We work with a wide variety of folks, and who are they? It is the majority of our clients come from Philadelphia County, and what they come to us for depends on what their need is. So when you say that, our stakeholders may be people who are looking to improve their credit because they didn't know that they had a problem until they went to rent an apartment and they were told, nope, your credit's not high enough. We don't rent to folks under a certain, because it's not just home ownership that requires a credit score to get a mortgage that's a lower rate maybe, or better terms, but rentals. So it could be that somebody could come to us who is facing eviction. We work with people who are facing eviction and represent them in eviction prevention, which is modification sometimes with landlords. Also foreclosure. There may be folks who come to us who receive a notice that their home is going to be foreclosed upon due to back taxes or some sort of lien. And especially during the pandemic, we saw a lot of that. And we connect those stakeholders or clients to services. We empower them to understand what those services are, what those things mean that they have seen or received. But we also have people who come to us and go, I need to do a budget. I'm thinking about, I couldn't take a trip because I just didn't have the money in my savings account to do that. And someone mentioned your name. your best referral sources, current or past clients. And they're like, and we do a financial health appointment, and a lot comes out of that. When we work with a client, someone who calls in, we have a trauma-informed, empathetic way of counseling. We go through what they're going through. We ask them what's going on, why they're here, why they're coming to speak with us, and what their goal is. And then we sort out what supports, empowerment, education, or programs they may need to meet their goals. And there may be programs they need to take part in that are outside of our bucket of our toolbox. So they may need to enroll in a program to modify their mortgage to keep them in their home. We help them get to that, understand what that program looks like, and how they access it.
All critically important, offerings, or as you're saying, kind of tools in the toolbox. Listeners of this show will know that over the past, we'll call it 2 years, certainly since the pandemic, we've dedicated a lot of time to the housing situation, whether that's on the economic side and the rate environment that we're in, or just the availability of housing and the prices and the challenges that come along with that. From your position with Clarifi, and as you talked about those primary markets or areas where your clients are, can you give us what is the state of home ownership in the communities that you're serving? What are you seeing from your vantage point?
A lot of different things. So what we're seeing from homeownership right now is mortgage interest rates have gone up. All interest rates have gone up, and we're living in an environment that makes it really hard if someone is a first-time home buyer to see an interest rate of 7% for a mortgage can be really unnerving, when prior to the pandemic, I believe rates were in the 4s, maybe 5s if you were just having a lot of different things going on. And so what we've been looking at is just a longer period of time for people to find a home to afford. Affordable home ownership is something we focus on, obviously. The majority of our clients are low to moderate income. So going out to buy a $400,000 house may not be a realistic goal for some of our clients. Some it may be. We have clients, it does not matter what your income is. You can come to us and receive free services. But what we are trying to do, and what we're finding, is that people need some assistance to get into those houses because of that interest rate. And as we like to say, we love if we can find programs that buy down interest rates or recapitalize folks on the back end after they've purchased the home, or down payment assistance. And I would be remiss if I did not say that Penn Community Bank did an amazing thing with the funds that were granted to us to work with our clients and to let us tell you or explain to Penn Community what would be most impactful with the dollars that you granted us. And having funders, see that the need is sometimes not what you thought it might be, which was small grants. We've come to recognize, due to this environment that we're in with interest rates, in order to help folks with longer term financial resiliency, a small grant is lovely. But that's helping a very short term situation. When you're able to give someone several $1,000s, you are really setting them up for success. And that was something that Penn Community Bank heard from us and allowed us to do. I mean, a lot of funders that know no heavens to Betsy, you can't do that. But you were flexible with that and let us do that. And it was just amazing. And it allows us to tell that story to others and the impact that it had on people. They were able to deal with things that happen after the purchase. And that's the environment we're working with is right now is getting people, trying to meet people before the crisis happens, if you will, helping them meet their goals, but also set them up for success beyond, especially when it comes to housing.
Yeah, certainly that affordability aspect, especially for first-time buyers, the interest rate environment, as you said, there's so many different challenges that individuals might be facing. There's only so much a financial institution can do to kind of predict those needs or respond to them. So really being able to partner with a nonprofit partner like Clarifi, who's on the front lines, understands what audience might need, what support, and how to best tailor those solutions has been a great partnership. And let's just kind of pause there and discuss what has been that partnership. Can you just kind of give us a high level, or a listener a high level understanding of what that relationship between the bank and Clarifi has been?
Absolutely. I believe that it started a couple years ago, and it was somewhat, I believe our executive director, Steve Gardner, knew someone at Penn Community Bank. And when he came to work with us, of course, he reached out to those folks saying he'd changed positions. And you also came forward with a grant opportunity, a funding opportunity, and we applied, I believe, and got to know Penn Community Bank. I'll be, fully transparent. I was like, I don't know that I know that bank. And I mean, I live in Center City, Philadelphia area, and I've lived here my whole life, so I'm a little stunted on anything that's not happening outside a very concentric circle of about 2 miles. But that said, we met with you. We found out who you were. We learned more about Penn Community and realized how much our missions align, basically. And that doesn't always happen with banks. And I don't mean to malign any banks, but you all are a community bank. And so the conversations back and forth, what's going on, what do you need, what are you seeing? And you listened, you heard us, you did a lot of what we do, is you listened to the need, figured out how you could be helpful, and then came in with funds and said, we think this is how we would like to see this money spent. And the idea originally was to sort of assist us with our counseling, funding counseling and some grants. And we said, okay. And so we were counseling folks, and the world landscape was changing while we were doing this. And the funds provided did a great something. And we were able to give you stats, with the number of people that started creating following a savings plan, or a spending plan, establishing a credit profile or improving credit, people paying down unsecured debt, or establishing a healthy emergency savings. And when I think we saw 210 clients over 341 counseling sessions. And that's not to date, that was as of a few months ago. Your funding allowed us to see those folks and to have those outcomes, which are incredible. And then when we started to look at the grants, because that was sort of the next step in the partnership and what was discussed, we thought, well, these are folks who come in for counseling. We've shown that if you come in for 1 or 2 counseling sessions, behavior changes, you are empowered, you feel that you have the resiliency and the education to do those things that you set as goals. And we saw that was happening. What we also saw was that there was a great need for people who were trying to buy a home, which is, of course, and the best way to build wealth. And we want people to build, maintain, and preserve their wealth and also pass it down. And we came to you and said, would you be willing, if we can define, get some folks who have already or on that track to purchase a home or have recently purchased, who come back in and have a few post-purchase counseling sessions, which, believe it or not, people, once they buy the house, they're done. They're like, thanks for your help. Clarifi, we really appreciated all that you did for us, but I'm in my house now, so I don't really need you. And this was a fantastic opportunity for us to explain to folks why you do still need Clarifi. And we reached out to them and we said, we have several $1,000s that we would like to grant to you to do with as you see fit since you've purchased your home, but we would like you to come in for a couple of sessions and talk about how you think you might want to use that. One of our success stories, amazing person who wanted to buy a home, wanted to get out of a domestic violence situation, worked hard to do that, got into the home, and they were one of the people that we reached out to and said, hey, we have this. We granted them, they had already been working on a little emergency savings. We granted them these dollars, and sure enough, didn't an emergency happen where I think a roof was needed, and it was plumbing, that was it. A pipe burst, a main sewer line, and they needed to redo some interior, not just the plumbing, but interior of their home. They have children, and if you haven't had a sewer pipe burst, you might not know that that is a really dangerous situation from a health standpoint. And this client was able to pay for that. That is keeping a home safe, warm, and dry for their children without having that counseling session that, there's a couple of counselors that said, make sure you're saving some money because something, no matter how much you plan, something is going to go wrong. And she said, I never would have been able to handle that. And like, you want to talk about a success story? That, shining lights, that's exactly the kind of thing that we do. And we are so fortunate when we get to see and hear those results, which we do. So if I didn't say it, thank you. We're most grateful. And it was great.
I really do think that's been the most impactful part of this partnership, aside from kind of that active listening, helping us understand what those needs are and how we can play a role as a community bank. But, it's been a year, believe it or not, since we began that partnership or that program. And you kind of look at the numbers on the sheet, and the numbers are impressive, but it's so much more than just, numbers on a spreadsheet. It's those stories that you said, you're able to connect the dots of here's what happened and here's how it benefited folks. And I just can only imagine how rewarding that is on Clarifi's side, but it's certainly gratifying on the bank side to be able to put a face and a story to, a big check, right? There's more to that partnership than just that dollars and cents. Speaking of that partnership, and I would be interested to hear, because Clarifi is so involved in the Philadelphia market and works with a number of different, you mentioned funders or for-profit organizations, businesses. What kind of example does a partnership like Clarifi and Penn Community Bank's relationship have to kind of set the table for what businesses should be doing as corporate stewards in Philadelphia, especially on the topic of housing? What does Clarifi see as that role of corporate social responsibility?
I mean, this is what I do, I think, most of the time, and I really want to be very clear and mindful of how I say this, but to have a bank or a foundation or a corporation come to us and say, we want to help, how do we do that? And to actually listen to what we have to say with the experiences that we have, sharing a success story like I just have shared with you, and them really hearing us and saying, yeah, that makes sense. This is what these are our goals as a funder or as a grantor, or our mission is this. Can we tie these two things together, your mission, our mission, and can we give you funds to do that? And to have institutions understand that the folks that know best how money can be used to create impact and long-term resiliency we've been doing it for a long time. We're pretty sure we know what we're doing, and we're really proud of the fact that we do get this. We have not, this was not like, we put up a shingle and we're doing the best. We really have worked hard at what we do and understanding what our clients need, as well as tying that to the external environment that is our economy or the housing market or subsidies, etc. And to be able to hold, and I hope you don't mind, we hold up relationships like the one we have with you to other funders to say, this is one that really worked. And let us explain why. And Aaron, I know it sounds silly, but just thank you for listening. It gives us a way to show that what we do and what we say and why we're asking for something in a particular way, why it is important, and showing how it works. Outcomes, everyone's outcomes, of course. To change the lives of one family is so impactful. We're pretty lucky in that we get to speak to those people whose lives have been changed drastically by a $5,000 investment. Yes, and sometimes it needs to be more than that. But to be able to see that change and to be able to say to a funder, like, we're going to show you what this is what it took to get this person to this point. And it's not just the $5,000 that perhaps we granted to somebody, but it was also the funding that was allowing our counselors to do their job. That, while on the backside, where people like me and our development team are out talking to organizations, using you or Penn Community Bank, not you personally, Aaron, to use you as an example. And, the picture behind the check that's great. And it shows the impact. Like, we are able to show impact. And that is, to us, impact is even better than outcomes. And that is something that you and Penn Community saw. And that is what we are trying to get others to see. It's about impact more than, 12 people improved their credit score, 50 people opened a bank account. Sometimes you have to sort of see the impact of incremental change. And when we get really lucky and we work really hard and our clients work really hard, they are tenacious with their goals. Tenacity is something that is one of our core values. And if you want to talk about working hard, our clients are working very hard to meet their goals. But to be able to show that impact and that long-term impact and resiliency is really, as an example, it's just a wonderful thing to be able to do, and to be able to tell other organizations, look what we are able to do. Penn Community Bank, you got us from jump, which was great. It really was. And I'm laughing because sometimes we work so hard to get people to understand what we are doing and that impact, and to have a funder come forward that can get it straight away. We're most grateful.
Well, for those that are inspired by your message, Jill, by Clarifi's work, or someone who says, hey, some of those offerings or services sound relevant to me, how is the best way for someone to get involved or get in touch on either side of the ball with Clarifi?
In this great world we live in, and these wonderful screens, going to our website, we have a partnership website, a partnership page on our website. We're www.clarifi.org. We also have a social media presence. If you @WeClarify will come up, and you'll see some interesting information about us. We highlight, a success story on Instagram or a post about some things that are happening in the news. But we also have a spot for people who are interested in utilizing our services. where they can call us or email us and say, hey, and somebody will give them a call, and intake or a navigator will give them a call and walk through some early steps and then get them set up with a proper appointment type. And for people who might be interested in helping us do our work, we have some amazing stories, success stories on our website, so you can see the real people that are being affected, and we're always happy to hear from you and say, how can we help? We will tell you exactly.
No, we'll be sure to link all of those in the show notes, and really encourage people to learn more about Clarifi, find out how they can either get involved in support or take advantage of these great offerings. Really appreciative, Jill, for you taking the time today, and the Clarifi team for the work they've done over the past year. It was great to kind of highlight this, and we look forward to continuing our partnership in years to come. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Aaron, and thank you, Penn Community Bank. We couldn't do what we do if it weren't for organizations like yours.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Mutual Growth, a podcast by Penn Community Bank. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a rating. And as always, keep up with the latest from Penn Community Bank by following us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. For more information about this podcast, links to past episodes, or to learn more about Community First Banking, just visit penncommunitybank.com/podcast. Mutual Growth is the official podcast of Penn Community Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. It is produced for the benefit of current and prospective customers and partner organizations. This program is provided solely for educational and entertainment purposes. The information contained herein is based on sources believed to be reliable, but is not represented to be complete, and its accuracy is not guaranteed. The opinions, views, and estimates expressed are those of the presenters at the date of production and are subject to change without notice. Please email marketing@penncommunitybank.com regarding booking or repurposing any part of this podcast.